Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Juubi Naruto x Kaguya, part 5, the last part. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. A new change of scenery. Naruto sat on the edge of the complete bridge with a bored sigh. Do you think the fat fuck would have showed up by now after all his men in the town never reported back? He muttered. Naomi snorted. I doubt someone like him cares much about his own lackeys, as long as he gets to scurry away. She said. Think he'll have some shinobi with him. Been itching to show off how much more of a badass I am. Anko boasted. Anko, with our luck, we'll run into some missing nin. Kushina said, rolling her eyes. The four were currently watching over Tazuna and his men who were cheering due to the fact they had finally completed the bridge. After so many months of pain and suffering, we're finally free. One guy shouted and cheered in approval. What the hell is this shit? A voice came from across the bridge. A short pudgy man with shaggy brown hair, small circular black glasses, a black suit with a purple tie, and closed-toed shoes, stood across the water with an army of thugs with all kinds of weapons. Such a foul mouth, Naruto mocked. I suppose you're Gato. You're damn right I am. Who the fuck are you, and why the fuck is that bridge builder still alive? He yelled. What's wrong with Tazuna being alive? Enough of this. Kill the men. The fat businessman then took a look at Anko, Kushina, and Naomi, and grinned lecherously. And take the women. They'll be great whores. The man and his army of thugs suddenly froze, as a shit ton of killing intent was sent towards them, and it was none other than the women he had just suggested would be whores. I am no one's whore. Anko and Naomi yelled, as they began tapping into their own respective demonic powers, Anko's curse mark, and Naomi's chakra mode. In a flash, the two were across the bridge ripping apart the bandits limb from limb. Monsters. You two are monsters. One bandit yelled before his throat was ripped out. Leave Gato alive, I have something better for him. Naruto ordered, and though the girls gave no visible reaction, he knew they heard him. And what would that be? Kushina asked. I need his base's location. The money and anything else will be valuable for the citizens of Wave. His face then grew dark. Plus it's clear the man and his associates have no trouble with raping women and turning them into lesser things. Kushina's face also turned into a scowl at what lesser things meant, and she despised it. She knew about the darker missions kunoichi were sometimes forced, and some even volunteered for after having nothing to live for. They became by all means, whores, sluts, slaves, condoms, and every other demeaning and demoralizing name one could call a woman. The downside to such missions was the women never came back the same, their minds were gone, the only thing they could think about afterwards was sex. It was so horrible that not even Yamanaka such as Inoichi would willingly dive into their minds because of what they had been through. She had no doubt had Minato theme not saved her from those Kumo shinobi, she would have been turned into breeding stock with all kinds of bastards touching her body. And what if they're too far gone? I'll put them out of their misery. The conversation was cut short when Naomi and Anko returned and dropped Gato in front of them and said the man had a piss stain that showed even through his black pants. Wait, please don't kill me. I can give you anything. Money, land, women, jewelry, weapons, whatever you need. Just please don't kill me. The man begged. Tell me where your little hideout is, and I'll consider it. Naruto said, and watched, as the man's face changed from fear to rage. Absolutely not. You won't get my money or the bitches I have there. The man stared defiantly into the Redeed's eyes until he pissed himself a second time, as said Redeed grabbed him by his throat and lifted him off the ground, having him dangle his feet. And scratch at the arm holding his throat in an iron grip. Who said I was asking? Narudi said, as he formed his Sharingan and extracted said information forcefully before dropping the farman on his back. What do we do with Naruto-kun? Naomi asked. The Otsutsuki thought about it for a minute before placing a seal on the man's forehead. A cursed seal? Anko asked, confused. Naruto shook his head. It stops him from dying despite whatever injuries he sustains. Suddenly all eyes were on Gato, who whimpered in fear at the bloodthirsty grins. Tazuna, round up every one of your townsfolk. It's time they got revenge. Kushina shouted, grabbing the businessman by his collar and dragging him in the direction of the town. Right away. The bridge builder replied with a grin on his face that couldn't be wiped off his face by anything. His fellow workers were the same, as they all quite literally sprinted their way home to tell everyone this spectacular news. Can we come with you? Naomi's voice stopped her leader as he began walking away. No. His voice gave a definite answer, meaning there would be no discussion involved. What? The two yelled, shocked he would deny them the opportunity to torture someone who deserved it. I didn't stutter, the answer's no. I don't know how bad it is in there, and some of that stuff is too strong for either one of you to see. We're not children. You trained us, and prepared for anything. You can't just shelter us. Naomi shouted, but soon flinched at the glare Naruto sent her. Do you think I care about that? You three are people I hold dearly, and if I can spare at least some of the horrors humans have to spare, then damn it, that's what I'll do. Before the two could utter a sound, he was gone in a swirl. He really cares for us, Anko managed to say. Yeah, Naomi added, and felt her heart beat. Was this the feeling her mother told her about as a child? Despite having doubts, Kushina always believed the right man would come along, win her daughter's heart, and treat her like a princess. Beidou's estate. Naruto appeared in the front gates of the mansion, and inspected the surroundings. It looked to have over 50 guards from the faint chakra signature civilians gave off. Guess I'll be stealthy just this once. After sneaking his way past the guards at the gate and inner landscape, he made his way inside the luxurious house itself, and was planning on going for the safe first until he heard voices and moaning. Turning his head down a hallway, his eyes narrowed at what he saw. A woman, another thug if the clothes and weapons on the ground were any indication, was servicing 5 dudes. 2 guys were thrusting in and out of her ass and pussy, while a third thrusted into her mouth while the final 2 she jerked off. And by the lustful look in her eyes, the woman was enjoying it. Aren't you glad you got rid of your bratty little daughter to have some fun with us instead? One of the thugs said, and laughed, as the woman nodded, and sucked him off with more vigor. Forget about that brat. She couldn't even suck me off right despite her mom showing her all the steps to do it. He scowled in the direction of said girl, and Naruto saw right at what came into his vision. The girl, no younger than 10 years old, was on the ground covered in sperm, a pool of blood puddled around her head, and her eyes wide open, stating she was very much awake a few seconds before he arrived. He growled with bloodlust shown clearly in his eyes. He came around the corner activating his EMS, and walked in the direction of the group. Hey, who are you? One of the thugs yelled, and notified his fellow thugs about the approaching Redeed. The woman noticed too, but ignored him in favor of sucking more dick. Whose child is that? He asked calmly, though he fully knew, and simply wanted to know if the woman was a piece of shit, or she had just been raped to the point where she thought of nothing but cock. Why would that be hers? One of them chuckled, as he gripped the woman's hair, and smirked, as she moaned from the harsh treatment before glaring at the new arrival for interrupting her fun time. Do you not love your child? Naruto asked the woman, and stared impassively, as she stood up, and exposed her less than attractive body that had semen covering it, and glared at him even more. But she can't even provide any use then no. The annoying fuck just complained about how much it hurt, and kept crying, so we shut her up. She laughed at the end before seeing her comrades get impaled by wood shooting out of the ground. I don't find mentally and physically abusing your kin funny. I don't find killing your child funny. And I sure as hell don't find you getting your slutty holes filled while your daughter is over against the wall bleeding out. Naruto growled. The woman went for a kunai, and lunged at the Redeed in rage. How dare you kill my friends, and tell me to care for some worthless brat. Naruto easily dodged her attack, and slammed her into the wall before jabbing the kunai she had into her head, and letting it hold her body to the wall. Worthless brat, eh? It'll be that worthless brat that decides your fate at the gate of hell. He said before walking down the stairs to a basement, and sniffing out more hormones. This place reeks of death, and sex, and I have a feeling I know what was killed. Yomi said. If such a thing happens to be a possibility, I'll wipe this entire house off the face of the planet. Opening the door leading to a large room which he concluded was where they held women, his eyes widened upon what he saw. Death. Chains. Women. Blood. No, mommy, stop. I'm sorry. His eyes traveled, and filled with rage, as a woman beat a child with what looked like a metal bar. Shut up. You should have thought about this before biting Tashi-kun's dick. Now I won't get to have any. I've had enough of you always fucking up, you little shit. The woman yelled, ignoring the infant's pleas and apologies. Another child, between the age of 7 or 8, was being sat on by a thug, while a woman sucked him off, and ignored the child's cry for his mother to help him. Yet another child, a little girl, was getting hit by a woman because a thug told her he'd spend more time with her, but she made the little fuck pay for not giving him top. Monsters, Naruto said quietly, and somehow it traveled throughout the room despite the moaning, grunting, yelling, and cries effectively silencing everyone. What? Who are you? A thug shouted, as he stood up abruptly, and got into the Redeed's face despite still having his glory known to the world. Not that it was much to show off, mind you. His answer was given to him when a hand grabbed his throat and slammed him into the wall, threatening to choke him. The head came at Naruto's back. Put Tashi-kun down, freak. He didn't do anything wrong to you, so leave him alone. Naruto looked the woman over, and scowled in disgust seeing she was the same woman he had just seen beat her child to death. Why did you kill that child? He questioned. Sure, he could just kill her, but he wanted to hear it come from the woman's mouth. Why? Why? You wanna know why I killed that little bastard? She can't do anything right. How hard could it be to suck dick? I did it easily, so why can't she? And then she hurt Tashi-kun, which meant I couldn't get fucked. She yelled, clearly thinking what she had said made sense. It didn't. So you killed your child because you couldn't stop being a slut. The woman in the room had the audacity to look shocked, and then glared at the man. Of course. I never wanted this stupid brat. I just wanted to be fucked, and I wouldn't have some annoying brat ruin it for me. One yelled, as Naruto saw behind her was a dead child with his head split open, and dried blood around the wound. It was then he noticed that there were many more corpses throughout the room, and all of them were children, whether covered in sperm from being raped to death or killed. It was then at that point Naruto realized none of these monsters could be saved. To be raped until your mind broke, he could understand, but willingly forsaking your child for sex was unforgivable, and made your life forfeit. Now give us Tashi-kun or we'll make you, the woman demanded. Crack. Tashi's body fell to the floor lifeless, his neck broken. The woman looked at the murderer in fear along with the other thugs in the room. Don't worry, I'll reunite you whores with him soon enough, Naruto said, tapping into his Biju power unconsciously. Freak. One cried. You're a monster. Another shouted. Murderer. The woman shouted, but were silenced, but the laughter that came from Naruto. You call me a monster, yet you disregard the safety of your children to get your rocks off. No matter, once I'm done with you, you'll wish you had treated your kids right. He snarled before attacking the now screaming women and men. But Kushina, Naomi, and Anko. The three hummed peacefully, as they watched Gato get ripped apart by the civilians of Wave. Such a nice punishment for him, don't you think? Kushina asked. Easily. They're really giving it their all too, Anko said, as she watched a woman kick the man repeatedly in the balls. I wonder, geez, we love him too, but you're head over heels for him. Kushina giggled. Yeah, he's on your mind 24/7, Anko added with a grin. Naomi blushed, and was about to yell at them when she felt the ground shake. She just looked at her mother, and Anko, and it was clear they felt it too. What was that? She asked. Naruto's probably in danger. No sooner than the words left her mouth, Anko and Naomi stormed off in direction of where the minor earthquake came from. The red-heated woman sighed and facepalmed, such a handful tabbing. She muttered before rushing off to catch up with them. Konohagakure, Hokage Tower. Hiruzen once could say he was proud of being the Hokage and leader of his village. To lead honorable men and women into wars, defending his sensei's will of fire with his life. Now however, Konoha had become a shell of its former self. Its civilians and shinobi had become arrogant, cocky, demanding, and corrupt. Even its government had become laid-back, corrupt, and cruel. His thoughts went to the three people the village despised, as a whole. Uzumaki Kushina. Uzumaki Naomi. Mitarashi Anko. One happened to be the student Orochimaru betrayed and left behind to fend for herself. One was a girl who was unwillingly made a Jinchuriki of the Biju that attacked the village at birth. And the last was the mother of said girl. Given how Kushina had taken in Anko and treated the girl like family, when the time came around for Anko to choose her sensei and be a follower like everyone else, Anko chose family and was hated even more for it. Kushina was the wife of the deceased Yondaime Hokage, though only few knew of this. Oozumaki considered a dirty foreigner by the village, and the mother of a child who had the 9 tails sealed within her. Kushina had also gone through death threats, abandonment by her students and closest friends, and various attacks on the lives of both her and her child, yet repelled each and everyone, showing why the woman was the strongest and most feared kunoichi in all the elemental nations. And finally, Naomi was the said child that held the demon itself. The girl was hated from the moment she could fully breath or make a sound, cursed and scorned by the people around her. Her death was demanded by quite literally everyone, and when that didn't happen, they attempted to sabotage her shinobi training at the academy, only to find out she could answer just about everything thrown at her, and refused to be bullied or disrespected by anyone. That's why he currently had the displeasure of looking into the faces of his old friends and teammates, though neither one of them saw him as such, and neither did he. They had proven such a thing wasn't worth anything. Every single day they attempted to usurp his command, and challenged every single thing he did. The first was a woman, Kaheru, who wore a simple long kimono, clothed by an obi, a jacket, and a dash over it. Her hair is pulled into a twin bun locked by a hairpin with 2 pearls dangling off the side. The second was a male, Homura, who had grey hair, a beard, glasses, and similar robes like Hiruzen did, as Hokage. The final was a man, Danzo, who appeared as a frail, old man, who walked with a cane. He had black, shaggy hair, and his right eye was bandaged while wearing a white shirt, with a black or dark grey robe over the top of it covering from his feet. For the last time, Homura, I will not punish Kushina for putting several shinobi in the hospital after they provoked and attacked her first. For the last time, Kaheru, the Uchiha will not receive training from several jonin, he already has one, and that is more than enough. And for the last time, Danzo, I will not give you Naomi for you to train her. He told them, and watched, as they all scowled at the same time. This is unacceptable. You gave that Uzumaki wench and her demonic daughter another jonin to assist her, yet you refuse to give Uchiha-sama the tools he needs to kill Atako and remain loyal to our cause, Kaheru shouted. I agree, I won't stand silent while that foreigner puts our shinobi in the hospital for doing their duty and ridding the village of their wretched stench, Homura added. The Sandaime glared at the two, and they both flinched, as a reflex. Both the elders, civilian council, and the village, as a whole, had expected the Sandaime to be a pushover now due to his old age, and that would allow them to make many changes that would be more beneficial to them. They were wrong. The man had come back strong, as if he were in his prime. An authoritative presence that inspired fear both in and out of Konoha. He wasn't going to be manipulated by anyone or anything, and he made that clear. Of course there had been those that challenged his command, such as the late Uchiha Fugaku, Himura, Kaheru, and mainly Danzo, but they quickly realized such an idea was not smart. The Uzumaki woman is not loyal to this village, everyone knows this. She is a danger that must be eliminated, and her daughter must be brought to her knees for re-education to serve the village. Danzo said. I don't blame Kushina nor Naomi for not being loyal to this village for all the things you've attempted to do to them behind their backside. Sarutobi replied. It was all in the name of Konoha. I refuse to allow that abomination, and Hor walks around the village, as if they own it. We are their superiors, their betters, and we deserve to be treated as such. Danzo defended. The Uzumaki have always been foreigners, and will stay foreigners in this village. Himura added. Which is why we demand all knowledge about the Uzumaki clan be removed from the Shinobi Library and Shinobi Academy burned, and all regarding that bastard clan be given to our shinobi, who will put it to better use than be hoarded by that Uzumaki woman who refuses to show us anything. Kaheru finished. Sarutobi's face remained stoic and blank for a few seconds before standing up. First of all, the Uzumaki clan was just as responsible as the Senju, if not more than the Uchiha for the founding of this village. If I recall correctly from what my own eyes saw, and from what Hashirama-sensei told me, it was Uzumaki Mido who assisted in his wringing control from Madara when he ensnared Takayubi in his Sharingan, and eventually sealed the Biju within her. It was Uzumaki Mido who eventually married Hashirama-sensei, and became his wife. Hashirama was a fool to marry that pathetic woman. Himura shouted and paled as he felt Kai explode from the elderly cage. Disrespect my sensei or interrupt me again, and you'll find retirement coming closer. Second, I will not be removing anything about the Uzumaki clan from the academy, library, and I will certainly not be taking anything from Kushina that belonged to her since her birthright. She is a Konoha shinobi, and therefore whatever she has in her possession, whether it be family scrolls, techniques, seals, or whatever belongs to us by right. Kaheru shouted. Is it the case for the Uchiha boy, as well? Hiruzen asked, and watched, as the two began turning red with rage. How dare you compare Chiha-sama to the likes of that bitch? You're crossing the line, Hiruzen. Himura snarled. Remind yourself of your place, councilman. All it takes is for one slip-up on your part, and I can have you executed within the hour. All three teammates of the Sandame looked shocked at this, even Danzo. Very well, Hiruzen, though remember this well. The shinobi's trust in you has been wavering ever since you decided to stick up for the Uzumaki. It'll only be a matter of time before they feel a new Hokage should be elected who will answer their cries about the demon brat. Danzo said, as the three elders prepared to leave the office, but were shaken by his cold response, as they exited out the door. Should such an event happen, I do not worry for the safety of Kushina-chan nor her daughter or even Anko-chan. Instead I worry for those foolish enough to believe a woman who survived being attacked and stabbed by the Kaibi's claws, and the very container of said beast will simply die or be brought to your heels like you all think they will. Hiruzen shortly afterwards continued with his paperwork, which was mostly demands of the Shinobi Academy being made easier for the civilians, and Kushina and Naomi being executed, which he obviously denied. As long as he could, he would try his best, and preserve what little remained of his sensei's will of fire in the village. With the girls. Whoa. Anko whistled in awe at the destruction of the area. The mansion had been completely destroyed, ripped apart by wooden spikes, and covered in black flames. Whoever pissed him off is more than likely dead. Kushina muttered looking at all the dead bodies they passed by. But what could have pissed him off this bad? He's the one who taught us how to deal with our emotions, remember? Naomi said. The two older women could only shrug as they walked through and avoided spikes in the ground, not focusing on the looks of the dead thugs. Eventually they did come upon Naruto, who looked as if he was burying something or rather someone. Naruto-kun. Naomi shouted as she ran up and hugged him, though he gave no reaction to it. Curious and worried, she looked in front of him and gasped at what she saw. He was burying children. Two gasps from behind them gave away Kushina and Anko as well. The plan continues on, as we discussed earlier, he said, though it was strained, as if he had been crying earlier. What happened here? Anko asked, as she walked up next to him. Naruto simply shook his head before walking off. The money in the bag is more than enough for Wave to provide and care for themselves, should they choose to do so. I'll meet you back at the house. The three could only look at one another with a worried glance before looking back at the graves. Think he'll tell us later? Kushina asked. Anko nodded. It had to be something horrible though, since it involved kids. We should give him time. 1 week later. Like Anko had suggested, Naruto did tell them, and it involved kids. The end result was Naomi barfing, Anko begging Naruto to revive the women so she could make them suffer, and Kushina scowling in disgust. The rest of the week was basically the group helping around the town, dealing with whatever stragglers Gato had left around, and spending time with one another. The people of Wave were incredibly thankful for their help, and had said so multiple times. It was hard for them to watch their heroes end up leaving, but they did promise to always have their back if they needed everything. Naruto-kun, hurry up. Naomi yelled, as the group was walking back to Konoha. You're lazy, you being awfully slow. Enko added. Naruto rolled his eyes, as he walked faster before falling in pace with the rest of the group. So what are you gonna do? Kushina asked. What do you mean? You can't exactly walk into Konoha with 2 horns on your head, especially if you want your plan to work, Uzumaki said. Naruto clicked his teeth. You make it sound like I care what people think. Anyone with the balls to attack you, let alone me, will be left broken. Overconfident bastard. Kushina muttered, and was promptly smacked on her behind for it. You love it. In minutes, Kushina was chasing Naruto, waving her sword around in her attempts to hurt him. Should we help her? Naomi asked Anko. Let's. Hokage Tower. Here's inside it, the news brought before him by the daimyo's head general. Is there no way we can simply back out of this? He asked the woman. She shook her head negatively. His Majesty will not accept it backing out Hiruzen. Not only will it be a bad light on him, but other nations will take such disrespect and feel an attack on Konoha is an appropriate response. The Chunin exams will go on in Konoha, and all available teams must join in, she said. The elderly Kage groaned, as he buried his hands in his face. Why would Hiruzen be worried about this, you might ask? Well, there was just one thing about Konoha's genin. With the exception of Team Guy and Naomi, the rest were simply jokes. His son, Asuma, was in charge of Team 10, which consisted of the Inoshika-cho trio with the 3 heirs of the Yamanaka, Nara, and Akamichi clan. Newly appointed Jonin Yuhi Kurenai was in charge of Team 8, which consisted of Inuzuka Kiba, Hyuga Hinata, and Aburame Shino, who were also all heirs with the exception of Hinata. Pada Kakashi, the late Yondame's student, was in charge of Team 7, which consisted of Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and Sai. Sasuke was the last Uchiha, Sakura was the daughter of Councilwoman Mibuki, and Sai was a ninja danzo referred to fill in the empty spot. While that might not sound bad, Hiruzen knew just how bad both teams and Jonin Sensei were when it came to handling their students. Haruno, Yamanaka, Nara, and Inuzuka each tied for dead last for the academy, having the worst scores of all time. The first 2 were straight-up fangirls who did nothing to improve shinobi-wise, and focused more on winning over a boy who didn't even like them. The Nara boy had been the laziest he had ever seen, even more than his father, though Hiruzen knew he was extremely smart like his father. And finally the Inuzuka boy was just a mess. Rash, arrogant, and believed any female he liked belonged to him. He had made advances on every single girl in his class, and had been rejected quite brutally. Ironically, the worst comes from Hinata. The Inuzuka had attempted to grope the girl, and suffered a beating worse than any Tsunade could give Jiraiya on her best day. The Hyuga girl had gone through so much mental trauma, from being degraded, bullied, called weak, harassed, neglected, and ignored by her entire family. The girl had just been cast out by the clan with her own mother, branding her with the cage bird seal, using it on her before kicking her to the streets. It had only been because of one of his Anbu notifying him of the girl's injuries had he known. Though he wasn't fully blind, he knew the girl had hatred within her. He could see the way she looked at her teammates, sensei, and fellow genin with hatred. It was the same type of hatred Kushina held for Konoha for their unjustified hatred for her and her daughter. The Akamichi was more focused on eating than anything else. Aburame was insanely creepy, even for his family's standards, though he was more respectful than any of the other brats in his class. Sai was a root drone, he could tell that easily from first glance of looking at him, and his emotionless face. Maybe he'd have Kushina secretly kill him should the chance arise. And finally, the Uchiha, the most disrespectful of out the bunch, believed he was Kami on Earth, due to how many people in the village spoiled him silly. The boy had never worked for anything, always being given free by either the shinobi or Kakashi himself, when Team 7 was first formed. However, the boy had a secret that Itako and himself talked about with the Sandaime from time to time. Itako, before she left hand, expressed her fear of what would happen should the elders find out, and Sasuke coming to speak with him every day, once he finally got rid of his fangirls. Perhaps he could tell Kushina, and see what she could do. Are they that bad, Hiruzen? She asked. The man looked up at her, and gave her a look that said it all. They're horrible. None of them except for 4 people are even considerable for Chunin. The rest shouldn't have even been let out of the academy. He sighed, as he rubbed his scalp. Judging from how you dismissed your Anbu guards, you didn't want your opinion known to others who could use this against you, said one of the woman's samurai bodyguards. You are correct, I have many enemies within this village, and very few are still truly loyal to me. All because I don't bow to their wishes and demands. Began with Kushina and her daughter. The fire daimyo addressed this issue years ago, the other guard said. And what happened shortly after? He was almost killed by assassins. The Kage nodded slowly. This village is not what I once believed it was. Its arrogance, cockiness, and disrespect for old traditions have shown time and time again. Shinobi who I once trusted with my life have betrayed me, and sided with those conspiring against me. Arrogant children who believe they are Kami's children walk the streets, as if they were blessings when they are in fact rodents. But alas, I no longer have the support nor the strength to do it fully. I'm sure the fire daimyo will come to your defense immediately, and stop whatever this village plans to do. You and him are still great friends, as am I with Kushina. Hiruzen shook his head sadly, his eyes showing tiredness and fatigue, and risked his life. We both know he has many people from Konoha within his walls, as sleeper agents, yet we cannot identify them. Very well. However, I will be staying in Konoha for a couple days to test these teams, and see where their current skill is at. With a respectful nod between the two, the samurai left the office, leaving Hiruzen in a moment of silence. You can't go in there, demon wench. A shrill, loud, screeching voice yelled from outside his office before you heard a body hit the floor. Hiruzen sighed. He really should fire that woman or just have people knock. The door opened, and it revealed 3 people he knew, and 1 he didn't, though he wasn't worried about that. He was more worried about their changes. Kushina. Hey old man. The redhead grinned, scratching the back of her neck sheepishly, knowing she had to explain a lot. For starters, Kushina no longer wore any clothing signifying she was Konoha other than her headband, which hung loosely off her waist. She also wore a black high-collared jacket with the Uzumaki crest on the back that strained to hold her assets without jiggling. Black shinobi pants with a kunai holster and sword sheath that held her weapons at the ready, and her hair was even longer somehow. Enko simply wore her trench coat that remained open at all times to show her bust, an orange skirt, and the regular pouches. Like Kushina, her headband hung loosely round off her waist. Naomi was a different story, however. For starters, her hair was so Madara-like, it honestly scared Sandame. There was also the fact her chakra, along with Naomi and Enko's, felt massively increased from the last time he saw them. She wore an orange hoodie with a black shirt underneath, shinobi pants with kunai pouches, and a katana across her back. She was also gripping the 4th individual's arm within her clearly larger bust. The 4th figure was hers and didn't know how to explain. Hell, he didn't even know where to start. His chakra, while suppressed, was clearly cage level, which already shocked the man, felt dark yet light, as if they mixed together. He wore a black cloak over a black shirt and pants, a black belt, and a sword sheath behind his waist. His black spiky hair with hair covering his right eye would have made Hiruzen accuse the boy of being related to the Uchiha, if not for the cold blue eyes that stared emotionally at him. Kushina, would you please explain what's going on? The man asked her, and judging from how she made eye contact with the male of the group, he was in for a doozy. And he was right. Kushina had told him everything, from the surprise attack to Naruto's intervention, and eventually saving their lives, training them, forming bonds with each of them, killing Gato, and among other things. I'm too old for this shit, Sandame muttered, rubbing his head. Can you make him a ninja? Naomi asked. Fortunately for you all, the fire daimyo wants to know which shinobi truly deserve to be promoted to chunin during the upcoming exams, and who will more than likely be sent back to the academy. So he'll be sending one of his samurai to observe, take notes, and tell the full honest truth. Naruto said, getting a nod. Unfortunately, you'll still need a 3rd member. However, Yuhi Kurenai has voiced her displeasure with how Hyuga Hinata is no longer in her eyes worth training, and wishes to remove her from her unit. Kushina instantly snarled. That pathetic bitch. If only I could get away with removing her birth canal. She would have gone on had not Naruto placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. We'll take her. Besides, what better way to show that sorry excuse for a jonin how worthless she is by doing what she cannot? And what would that be, Otsutsuki-sama? The male visibly flinched at the sight of the sharp fangs of the god. Like turning Hinata into a woman stronger than any of the Kunoichi Konoha has ever made. Somewhere every person who had ever done something wrong to one Hyuga Hinata all shivered violently and broke out into a cold sweat, their hearts beating rapidly and their breathing getting heavy. Until it all stopped. Very well, I leave the girl in your hands. Please, do protect and take care of the girl. She's a truly kind soul who was born into a horrible family. Naruto nodded. Where is Hinata now? In the hospital being treated for her many wounds. I shall give you a needed slip with my approval to get past, and avoid any unnecessary trouble along the way. However, what? Anko asked. The Hyuga's clan animosity towards the girl is known to everyone within the village. Had you not have been going there myself, I honestly would have feared her clan would kill her before I made it, Hiruzen said. Naruto scowled, and disappeared in a fire shunshin, momentarily startling the old cage. Why would they kill her though? She's already been outcast from the clan, Naomi said. The Hyuga are known for their archaic ways and how they deal with families they see as worthless or not worth their time. Because Hinata didn't like hurting her family just for the fun of it like her other clan members, they considered her a worthless cause, Anko said. And because they despise her so much, and it's clear no one else in the village really cares for her well-being, Naomi's eyes whitened. They'll kill her, and get away with it because, as long as that slave seal is on her person, they can easily say she's still some form of the Hyuga clan in some sick way. Kushina finished. But who would they send? Enko said he knew many within the clan hated Hinata. Whether it was the main branch for their hatred of the girl not wanting to hurt family or the side branch who openly hated the girl to fit in and find a way to escape getting beaten into submission. Not that it would work. Who had the most to prove in the main family? Kushina asked with a scowl dug in heavily on her beautiful face. Hiruzen and Enko both made thinking gestures before their eyes whitened. Hitomi. They both shouted at the same time. Kushina nodded, crossing her arms under her bust. Hiashi has the pathetic woman under his thumb, and the man knows it. The only reason the elders tolerate her is because she beat and abused Hinata when they told her to. The moment she kills her, Hiashi swoops in claiming Hitomi disobeyed orders, and kills her on the elders' orders. And poor little Hitomi will only realize at the end of her worthless life that she fucked up. Hiruzen visibly cringed at how cruel Kushina turned. Whatever this Otsutsuki Naruto had done to her was yet to be seen if it was positive or negative. Kushina, I do have one last thing to tell you before you leave, and hopefully, you will relay this to Naruto-sama. Hiruzen said. Of course, what is it? The Redeed asked. You remember how Uchiha Mikoto gave birth to a daughter and a son? The three women grew scowls. Who cares about that damned clan? Naomi snarled. Please listen before you say anything, what I'm going to say may upset you greatly. I doubt it considering it involves the Uchiha, but go on. Enko said. Very well. The elderly Kage took a smoke out of his pipe before taking a deep breath. Konoha Hospital. Hinata truly didn't like harming family despite her family having no problem beating her physically and mentally for her so-called weakness. However, for the past few years, she had begun realizing she had a darker side than she wished to let on. And it had only gotten stronger due to an outside presence fueling it. Whereas one side had tried to believe that she could change the ways of her clan and bring them together, the other knew such a thing would be impossible due to how shallow and simple-minded the Hyuga were. After all, if they could go so far as to beat their family, why would they stop? She had briefly watched Kushina and her daughter as they walked around Konoha and received nasty glares all around from everyone, including her former clan. The girl was shocked as to what the two had done to deserve such scorn, and her answer was granted when she overheard her former father and the elders talking. The man had gleefully gloated about helping someone named Jiraiya bring the two under the control of Konoha, and how the clan would thrive from being known as the main helpers for containing the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and her whore of a mother. Speaking of mothers, Hinata hated her former mother with a passion. The woman had never been kind and supportive of her children, unless they had done what Hiashi wanted, which was attack and injure one another. It was also because Hinata realized Hitomi had been just as much of a fangirl of Hiashi as Sakura and Ino was of Sasuke. Such a thing honestly disgusted her, though she couldn't say the signs weren't there. The room door, and Hinata immediately glared at the three individuals that stepped in with all the hatred her pain and bandaged body could manage. You look as pathetic as a normal girl. Hitomi sneered. The wife of Hiashi was once a kind girl with an even sweeter heart. However, once she finally was viewed to Hiashi, she had turned for the worst. No longer the beautiful ray of sunshine that had remained in the Hyuga, she had turned into an exact copy of the man she married, and for what? So she could stay with him. Was the happiness of her children valued so little to her? I do have to thank you along with the rest of the clan for my current condition. After all, it was you who beat me after I had already gotten this seal placed on my head, and it had been used for an hour straight. Hinata snapped back, and was smacked by Hitomi. The scowl placed on the older woman's face. If you were real Hyuga, you would have fought back, but no, you just had to go and show your worthlessness. The woman yelled, showing she had just as horrible of a screech as Sakura and her mother, Mibuki. And what exactly is a real Hyuga? Killing your own clansmen. Willing to inflict pain and suffering on them. Laughing at their pain and misery because they were born into a side that you see as less than you. Hinata coughed up as Hitomi punched her in a wound, reopening it. It is the tradition of the clan, and it will not be denied by anyone. Hiashi-kan was right, we should have had Hanabi and Niji kill you seeing how they despise you for being so weak. Hitomi snarled. For what? Because I don't willingly abuse my family. Hanabi used that seal on a child not even 2 years younger than her, and laughed while he cried before killing him. And Niji is no better. The only reason he's loved by the main branch is because he bows to their whim and attacks anyone they order him to. Hinata shouted defiantly and let out a silent scream when Hitomi ripped her from her bed and threw her against the wall, reopening more of her wounds. So what if Hanabi-chan killed a child from the branch family? His life means as little as yours does. And don't you speak foul of Niji-kan like that, he's more of a Hyuga than you'll ever be. Hitomi went to kick Hinata in her face, but was stopped by a wave of killing intent that flooded the room like a wave. It appears the Sandane was right, you would attempt to kill her. Naruto said. Who are you? How dare you interfere in Hyuga clan matters? Hitomi said, as her guards prepared to kill the unnoticed intruder. Hiashi-kan told her that the old idiot of a Hokage wouldn't dare interfere with this, knowing if he did, he would be removed from seat. If I was told correctly, and from what I just overheard, Hinata-san was kicked out from your inbreeding clan, therefore this is a situation for the Hokage to handle, seeing as you are attacking a member of his shinobi corps. Hitomi and her guard scowled at the inbred comment before charging the intruder with the intent of killing him, and then going after the Hokage. But they didn't see a second figure climb in the window behind them and kneel before Hinata. "Who are you?" Hinata said, as blood leaked from her mouth. Her vision was getting more and more blurry, and she could barely breathe. Her wounds had reopened due to Hitomi's attacks, which were obviously meant to kill her. "SHH, it'll be okay," the figure said, as his hand glowed dark green, and he held it above her many wounds. Hinata wanted to let out a scream at the new painful feeling that overcame her body. Foreign chakra flooded her system, and filled her with pleasure at how warm and soothing it was, but pain, as it stretched her chakra levels, and she felt more than her wounds be healed. Naruto dodged the swift and quick palm strikes from Hitomi and her guards, and grinned through the entire way. "Stay still, you wretched commoner," one of the guards yelled, as he attacked with a speed most chunin wouldn't be able to handle. "I'm a commoner. You can't even hit me," Naruto taunted before landing 2 palm strikes on his own to the guards, which traveled to their heart and instantly killed them. Hitomi paled, as she realized the person before her had just killed 2 of the strongest branch members in the clan, only second to Niji. She was never a fighter, more so of a yes woman, and doing what others told her to do. "Not so tough now, are you, Hyuga?" Naruto said, as he grabbed Hitomi by her hair. "Release me immediately. I am Hyuga Hitomi, matriarch of the Hyuga clan, and wife to Hyuga Hiashi, the current Hyuga clan head. You'll be dead once he finds out what you've done." She smirked, knowing he'd begged for his life like many others alike had. "Is that supposed to frighten me?" Her eyes widened, as 2 horns rose from his forehead, and a dark grin crossed his face. "Demon. Someone help, the Kyuubi has broken free." She screamed, but only got drowned out by Naruto's laughter. "How stereotypical of you humans. The first sign of horns are something different from what you believe in. You choose to exile or resent it. I'm no demon, and I'm far worse than Kyuubi. Impossible. Anything that doesn't look human must be wiped out. Exterminated like the disease filth it is. It doesn't matter if it is child or not, it must be destroyed." The woman ran on, trying to get out of his grip on her hair. "I'd ask what turns you into this disgusting waste of a woman, but I feel such a thing would only annoy me." He was sad, as he threw her down. Hitomi immediately activated her Byakugan, and charged Naruto with a scowl. "I'll show Hiashi-kun and the elders how strong I am by killing you." Dodging her anger-filled palm strikes, Naruto simply grabbed hold of the woman's throat, and broke it effortlessly in his grip, before dropping the lifeless body to the ground. "No sense in playing with food, that's boring." Somewhat half of a moan and groan from behind him caught his attention, and he turned to see Hinata standing up, but not all the way able to fully support herself. As she fell forwards, he easily caught her, and sat her back on the bed. "My body feels so strange," she mumbled before stretching, and giving an unintentional view of her full breasts. "They're nice. Are you really one look at a nice pair of tits, and you already want to stick yo?" Naruto cut that mental conversation, and shook his head. He just had a strong appreciation for large breasts. It was perfectly normal. "Can you stop staring?" Hinata spoke, her face covered in a blush, and a slight scowl while her arms tried to cover her bosom. "Oh right, sorry." The Redeed summoned clothing for her, and promptly turned around to give her privacy. He walked over to the bodies of the dead Hyuga, and burned them before sending a clone, as Hitomi, with orders to kill the elders. "You can turn around now," Hinata squeaked. Naruto did so, and couldn't stop his eyes from gazing over her body. While she had worn the same thing as before, a cream-colored hoodie and shinobi pants, her body was more, and it showed with how her breasts seemed to be too big for her hoodie, and her hips looked more plump and full in the pants. "Amano, who are you?" Naruto frowned at her stuttering, and promised to fix that later on. "I'm Naruto, your new teammate." "Teammate?" "Yes, apparently your former Jonin-sensei felt that since you aren't a part of a clan anymore, you weren't worth her time." He watched, as her face formed a full scowl before it turned to sadness, and she was about to cry. Naruto gently put his hand on her cheek, and she flinched, but didn't move it. "What do you desire most in life, Hinata-san?" he asked her. She looked at him before putting her head down. He lifted it back gently before encouraging her with a smile. "I want support," she squeaked. "I want a nice guy with a nice family that'll love me. I just want to be strong." "I can do that." She looked up at him in shock. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Look no further for that support. I'll help you get stronger." He grinned. "Really? Really?" She squealed happily, and hugged him, sending both of them to the floor. He rubbed her back soothingly, as her body trembled. He correctly guessed she was crying. Thank you so much," she cried, burying her face into his shoulder. Naruto continued rubbing her back until she finally cried herself to sleep, more than likely not the first time either. He then sat up, and held her by her hips, as her legs unconsciously wrapped around him, and her arms tightened around his shoulders. The Otsutsuki placed a kiss on her forehead and sat on the hospital bed for a while. Hinata was always a nice girl. It was just due to peer pressure from everyone around her that she did stuff she didn't want to do entirely. This time, however, he smirked as she moaned when he rubbed her thigh. This time he planned for her to be his and his only. The end. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.